And now I'll look at some of our Alaska headlines for this Wednesday morning. The United States apparently intercepted 2 Russian bombers that were off Alaska's coast, coming in just within a couple of dozen miles of Kodiak Island, which happens quite often in this particular case. The fighter jets went out, intercepted, and escorted them for a few miles before they turned around and went back to Russia's far east. The Alaska House is urging Congress, the U.S. Congress, to scrap the Real ID Act. There are some concerns, of course. The act was intended way back in 2005 to make it harder for terrorists to get fake identification. What it's doing is making it harder for Alaskans to travel or to get onto base. They want the act completely scrapped. The Alaska Senate wants to use a raffle to help pay for education. The idea is basically would set up like the Pick, Click, Give program where you can elect to pay $100 out of your PFD for a raffle. Most of the money, actually 50% of it, would go directly to education. Another quarter of that money would then go into an education fund, kind of an ongoing endowment. And then that last quarter would be put toward raffle prizes, with the raffle amount being divvied up percentage-wise based on how many tickets are purchased. It's an interesting idea because it would be primarily voluntary in terms of how much money it would get, but nobody knows exactly how much it would generate. In Juneau, somebody was attempting to sell a loaded firearm to somebody else, and the gun went off. One of them was hurt. I'm not sure who the seller was or who was the buyer or which one got hurt, but police said that alcohol was involved. Also, the report that we gave yesterday about the incident in downtown Fairbanks was actually a standoff that lasted for several hours, and they brought out the LRAD. That's the long-range acoustic device, which, if you've been a long-time listener, you've heard me rail against, because it is a military weapon. Yes, it is a speaker, but it emits ear-piercing, actually damaging to your hearing noises, and it can also produce incontinence. The city officials continue to say it's nothing more than a listening or loudspeaker device. I'm not sure which they think it is, because they keep using those two interchangeably. Fact of the matter, it was used, and the guys did surrender. 3 men facing charges. These were suspects for a series of abductions and robberies that had happened earlier in the day. They're now in custody. They didn't blow up the apartment building. I suppose that was always an option. There's a story about why exactly Alaska's lawmakers can ignore the voter-approved deadline and what happens now. The real deadline comes July 1st, where if they haven't passed a budget, state workers get laid off. And, as always, there are way more stories than we have time for in a 3 to 5 minute video. I will just mention one more, and that is if you can find any muskox for sale, you could actually make a profit farming them for their fur. For all of the stories, become a paid subscriber at radiofreespeech.com, and I will email you a 30-minute version directly to your inbox every morning by 5 a.m. I will give you an opportunity to upload it to your device and listen to the news on your way to work. Once again, that's radiofreespeech.com. Thanks.